So, hi everybody. I'm Carol Kauffman, and I'm here with Dick Schwartz, and am delighted. We're going to be talking for about a half hour with Dick. And what would be good for you to know is that Dick did a webinar with us last week. And if you go to the instituteofcoaching.org homepage, and you'll see, I think it's called Coaching from the Inside Out. But it's our most recent webinar. So if you haven't seen that, I really suggest you watch it. It's about an hour and a half with Dick and Margaret Moore. It includes a general exercise that we may do today, and it includes an extremely beautiful actual coaching session with Margaret Moore. So this is Dick, and I met Dick in December. I don't know if you remember this, Dick. I met you in December 2009 at Esalen when you did a 1-week program, and then later in our work using the model beginning with coaching. So I do want to say one thing. I know many frameworks of coaching and psychology. And if someone said to me, Carol, you can use one model of everything you know, you can use one model from now on for the rest of your life, the model I would pick is this model. Oh, I think that it puts many things under the umbrella, and it's really a wonderful, powerful model. So that's what I would do, and that's how much I value it. So thank you.
Thank you, Carol. It's great praise. Really, I've enjoyed our collaboration.
So 2 things now. So everybody, what we'd love to do with follow-up materials or whatever is if you just say hi in the chat. Just as many of you can say hi, we can reach out to you later. So, Dick. So guys, you probably know that Dick was a family therapist in the past, and this model evolved out of that. So for those of you who haven't heard it before, Dick, why don't you share 5 minutes or so to just describe the heart of the model for people?
Okay, yeah. So about 40 years ago now, I started hearing from clients about what they called parts of them that were driving them crazy. And they would talk not only about the parts individually, like there's the critic, and then there's the binging part, and so on. But they would talk about how they related to each other inside themselves. And this sort of back in those early 80s, I didn't know from parts, and the degree to which they were talking about them as autonomous scared me, because I thought maybe these people are sicker than I thought. But then as I stayed curious and I noticed I've got them too, and I got, I've started to explore more and more from a family therapy point of view, how they related inside. And is there a way we can change them or change that inner relationship? And the beginning, I was doing it in a very heavy-handed way, which is the way many psychotherapies still do it, which is to fight with the parts and try to control them. And then I learned from a client who cut herself the folly in that, and how actually trying to learn about why they're doing what they're doing and what forced them into the role they're in is a much better way to go. And so after years and years of doing that, I can now conclude pretty safely that everybody has these parts. What we call thinking is usually the way they interact inside, and that there aren't any bad ones. I have a book coming out in July called No Bad Parts, which sounds true. And that amazed me, because even parts that have done heinous things, as you get curious about them and learn about their secret history, you learn that they were forced into these roles, and they carry these, what I call burdens, which are extreme beliefs and emotions that drive the way they operate, just like a virus might, like the coronavirus. And that they aren't what they seem. They're not the role they're forced into. which again was a direct translation from family therapy, because family therapy's big insight was you can't take a kid out of their family and expect them to change without understanding the role the kid is in the family and all the dynamics that are keeping the kid in that behavior. Same turns out to be true with these parts. So basic assumption is that everybody's a multiple personality in that sense, that we're born with them. It's the nature of the mind to be subdivided this way, and they're all valuable, but they're forced out of their naturally valuable states by trauma, by attachment injuries, into roles that can be quite extreme and can be quite destructive. Although with the population of coaches, you'll be coaching many clients who are dominated by these critics, who are dominated by these striving protectors, and they were productive in their lives. They got them to be the CEO, but they also exile many, many other parts of them. So they're out of balance, and their marriages are falling apart, and so on. So anyway, they can be destructive and they can be constructive in a way, but very limited. And so, and then the other big discovery, for lack of a better word, is that if you can just get these parts to relax a little bit inside and separate from whoever is left, spontaneously emerges what I call the self with a capital S, which is a kind of internal leader that everybody has and can't be damaged, and is and knows how to heal, knows how to lead in a healing way, and both internally and externally. And that I just stumbled into from trying some family therapy technique with this inner system. And now again, 40 years later, thousands of clients later, thousands of people using this all over the world, we can safely say that that self is in everybody and is just beneath the surface of these parts, such that when they open space, it emerges and can take over sessions and relate to parts in a harmonious way, and can take over organizations and help people and organizations relate more harmoniously. So part of my goal as I try to bring IFS out of strictly psychotherapy and more into the world is to help organizations become more self-led, and to help the leaders of the organizations know when they're in self and when they're not.
Yeah. So I'm hearing an echo of myself. Are others hearing an echo or not?
No.
Okay, so I'll try to overcome hearing my own echo. Alyssa, you've done something. It's gone away. So I think that's great. So kind of to sum up for those who weren't here before, what I see is you've done something called the internal family system, which is, what's inside us, and is the answer to the question, when I'm thinking, who am I talking to, right? So there's lots of parts of me. And so I think you've decided, you've talked about and explored, we've got parts of us that are exiles, as you said, the parts that either from trauma or because our families didn't like this part of us. Like, I'm playful. That was not socialized in my family. So I'm just going to put that back here and not let that part of me shine. Okay, so there's parts of me that are exiled. Then there's parts of me that kind of want to manage that. So let's say part of what was exiled was being connected to people. I had to be stiff upper lip. So whenever I'm about to not be stiff upper lip, another part of me might manage my situation so nobody can put me in that situation. Oh, someone has put me in that situation. And then I've got protectors that will come up. So there's this groups of sort of three different categories. That's great. What I think is really astounding, and you describe this very beautifully in your book, The Introduction to the Family Systems Model, is you really talk first about self and how we develop this self. I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit more about that, because one way I see it, so Dick, people don't think of you this way, but to me, you are a radical positive psychologist and a radical coaching psychologist. I think in the book Coactive Coaching, Karen Kinsey House and Henry talk about we are creative, resourceful, and whole.
Mm-hmm.
And you really, like everything you do, it's very clear that that's your belief. So
Mm-hmm.
could you talk a bit more about that? And then I'd like to ask you about the 8 C's.
Yeah. So again, what I'm calling self, I believe, I not only believe, but I know is in everyone and just beneath the surface. And so as people access that, there came a point where I began to try and catalog the qualities that would emerge. And in addition to some that you just mentioned, there people would, whereas seconds before they might be furious with another person, like if I'm working with couples and you're talking to your partner, and I said, could you ask that angry part to just step back a little bit and relax? Now, how do you feel? People will shift as soon as that part does give space. And now I feel kind of calm, and I actually have compassion for my partner, whereas seconds earlier I just hated him or her. And I see him or her more clearly now. I see the pain that's driving my partner. And that's happening just totally spontaneously by getting a few parts to open space. So we have what we call the 8 C's of self-leadership. Calm, curious, like a pure curiosity without an agenda. Confident, compassion. You don't have to build up the muscle of compassion. As these parts open space, you suddenly feel compassion. Clarity, courage. You have suddenly the courage to say things you've been afraid to say before. Creativity, you can relate in a much more flexible and creative way. And then a sense of connectedness that you didn't have before, because these other parts, these protectors, can cut you off and make it so you don't feel connected. And so those we call the 8 C's, because they all begin with the letter C, the 8 C's of self-leadership. And those 8 C's have held up well over all these 40 years as some of the most relevant qualities that seem to characterize the state.
So I'd love to share with you how I've been using the C's. And
Great.
For those of you who are fellows and have been joining our huddles that we have twice a week, one of our people talks a lot about the 4 C's, the 4 C's. We cut it down sometime to 4 C's so people can remember. But I'd like to share my experience, because I've been using this since we met in 2009, leading with the 8 C's. One thing I've been doing, what helped me, is to have them in a particular order for myself. And everyone has a different order. So I'm going to walk you through something that's just happened in the past 2 weeks. So in the past 2 weeks, I've had a little bit of a crisis, a positive crisis, but a crisis, where I've been offered a half-time job and an invitation to put in a book proposal to a very wonderful book company, so publishing house. So I'm now having to figure out how to put in 3 days into my week. Okay, and so I'm just going some version of, oh my God. Okay, so there I am, activated. You can probably feel it right now. I am activated. Like, how am I going to do this? Okay. My order of 8 C's. Number 1, actually, I'll spell them out and then go through. So for me, my go-to is calm. If I'm calm, I can be clear. Clear unlocks curious. For me, then compassionate. So calm, clear, compassionate, and curious. So I can be confident, courageous, creative, and connected. So for me, each one, and that may not work for a lot of other people, but for me it works. So calm is, OMG, this is too much. So calm is downshift. Breathe. Okay, then the intellectual confetti can go to the ground and I can be clear. then I can start being compassionate to myself rather than, how did you do that? It's like, wait a minute, this is going to be okay. Don't forget to take care of yourself. Okay, so now I'm calm, clear, compassionate. Then I can start being curious, like, wow, all this is great. Let me start exploring how this could be possible. And, why don't I talk to other people and get more questions? Okay, so now I'm calm, clear, compassionate, and curious, or at least more so.
Mhm.
And then creative, there's lots of ways to do this. Confident, yeah, I can. Courageous, I'm going to have to make some hard decisions here. And then connected, because from my past, I tend to be untrusting. So it's like I'm super trusting, like until I'm not. And so the connected is wait, the vigilance, I can let the vigilance, like, am I going to be taken advantage for this? And I better get a lawyer. It's like, calm down. So then my exiles, right? Like, I'm scared, I want to run. It's like, okay. My managers, like, you don't want to do a lot of change. Just settle out, like, keep your life calm. Don't do that, and then my protectors are like, who's going to take advantage of you? And so this is how I will literally, and I have to do this multiple times because I'm sure you can feel the energy, like I go down, then it goes back up and then down. And so that's how I've been using it, and using that with my clients. Also, how can you're activated, how can you step into the 4 C's that are most powerful for you? And it's been great. You've changed my life.
I love that, Carol. As you were talking, I was thinking about how I do it. And I think often I start with curiosity, because if I can get away from the judgment and just get open and curious, that calms me down. And then from the curiosity, what I learn about the person brings compassion. But I think, probably people do it in different orders, but it's a fascinating thing you just went through. I also would have to say that, and this is some of what we teach in our trainings, that there's an embodied sense of self. So that when I have those C words, or at least some of them, I feel very different in my body. And I can, like, if I'm in a triggering situation, I'll just notice, I notice I've got my familiar protectors in my forehead and my shoulders. And I'm just saying, just relax, just trust me. And immediately I'll feel my heart open up again, and I'll feel the calm coming in. And so, but it's very similar to what you're describing.
Let me tell you another way I use this with clients and hear your feedback on it. So here's almost a similar situation. One of my clients, he's just been asked to be a CEO of a Fortune 30 company, and he really doesn't know if he wants to do it. I'm personally motivated him. Like, I really want to do it. I really want to have a famous client. Like, that'd be really cool. Come on. Okay, so I'm like, calm down. This is not about you. Blah, blah, blah. Calm, clear, curious, compassionate. Okay. Right. Otherwise known as damn girl. Not your fight. So part of him wants the job. Part of him really doesn't want the job, and he really may not do it. So what I did with him is I said, so on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you think you want the job? And then he said a 6. But I said, let's just have this part of you talk. Let's hand the mic to you, the part of you that wants this job. Just talk. And so he talks and talks, and then he starts editing. Well, I know that. And I'm going, no. Just this part. And so talk. And then I say, okay, now the part of you that does not want to take this job, let's hear from that part. And then da. Then what I do, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, is I said, okay, so we have this part and this part. Can these 2 parts just talk to each other? And so I have them just talk to each other and back away. And it's just amazing, because I want to take a side.
Yeah, that's what we call depolarizing. And because you have these polar parts that are fighting with each other. And then the thing I might add to that is, you had one talk and then the other talk, but you could have self-interview each of them and make a connection. And so they feel self's presence. And because we do this also with really, really scarily polarized parts who need to have this sense of there's somebody else there. And then when you bring them together, you could have yourself, Carol. No, I don't mean you as a facilitator, but if I was working with you,
Yeah.
I would say, Carol, I'd like you to kind of be the mediator as they talk to each other and make sure they're respectful and start the conversation by asking each if they have anything in common with the other. And so it's really taking conflict resolution work into the inner world and mediation. Yeah.
Intermediation. So, guys, isn't Dick wonderful? But you probably already knew that. So here's the thing. If you're interested in more information about this, there's two things you can do. One is you can go to the IFS, Internal Family System, ifs-institute.com. So that's one. The other one is, I think, Dick, it's just ending now, but it's still open. There's something called the Online Circle Year Subscription. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So every month for a year, you get some videos of me giving a lecture like this and showing video examples, and a couple of my lead trainers also, and then a lot of other, materials to study on your own. And like I said, it's a year sign up. And I think they might have just closed the window to it, but I think if you applied, they would still probably let you in.
Just say Dick sent you.
Just say me. Tell them I told you. Tell them to. But thanks, Carol. Thanks for mentioning this.
It's great. So guys, I took just a year of the level 1 leadership, IFS. It's really wonderful. So the other thing is, if you're truly interested in this, go to ifs-institute.com and really explore it. The other thing is, after you're listening and you're going, gosh, I'd like an IFS coach or an IFS therapist. Dick, you've got like thousands of people around the world who do this. And how do they find them? Do they just go to the ifs-institute.com?
Yeah, there's a directory on our website that, and I think it lists the qualifications of the person and whether they're certified and things like that. So, yeah. And the other thing I want to mention to your group is we're actively working on a training especially for coaches and people that do this kind of work with influencers, because I do want to bring IFS to larger systems. And I also love working with coaches in the sense that they don't have to unlearn so many things that therapists learned in graduate school that get in the way.
Yeah, and when I work with a leader, right now, I'm very privileged to probably work with about 4 gigantic leaders, CEOs, and a number of C-level people. And my stealth goal in every engagement is to help my leader become more self-led and to access qualities of the self. And I do think, as you've said, if we can do that as coaches, all of you there together, if all of you are here, we probably coach people who affect millions of people.
That's partly why I'm so excited to work with people like you, because there is no potential. I mean, my secret goal is to bring self-leadership to the culture, and those kinds of influencers are one of the vehicles. So I'm really grateful for doing that, Carol.
Yeah, so it's just great. So I just want to say I'm seeing people from all over the place. Just so you know, people are here from Devon, Peru, Berlin, a bunch of places, Cambridge, Mass, Cambridge, England, Lebanon, lots and lots of people. I'm not sure how many are here right now, but also in the future, we often go up to a few thousand people watching this. So what wisdom would you like to share? Just like to have you have some space to share whatever comes to your mind now, to speak to us as coaches and those of us also coaching leaders.
I probably don't need to say this, but the work you're doing is, like you just said, Carol, incredibly important. And not only are you helping your client individually, but your client is going to influence many, many other people. And our country, our world desperately needs more self-leadership right now. And
Mm.
so I'm trying to balance, because I'm old now, I'm 71. Um, hearing that inside myself, but also working with the part of me that's so passionate to give space to other parts and have more balance in my life. And so we want to do that too with the people we coach, so that
Mhm.
the part that got them so much success doesn't drown out all the parts that want to have other things in life. So
Now, let me share another exercise. This was really developed by two of our fellows, David Noble, who launched the first internet bank and is now a coach, and Douglas Chu, who is the head of strategy at MetLife and now is a coach. One of the things they do a lot is when they're working with someone, they'll say, okay, before we get started, let's assess how you are on the 4C. So with calm, on a scale of 1 to 10, how calm are you?
Mhm.
And they'll have them assess and how curious, compassionate, whatever their top 4 are. And then they'll say, okay, so let's go back and see how can you go from a 4 to a 6 on being calm right now. And then we'll be, okay, so now you're at a board meeting and stress is coming at you. On a scale of 1 to 10, what will your calm be? And so literally coaching them through whichever their 4 C's, but the whole idea of on a scale of 1 to 10,
Mhm.
how calm are you? I'm a 4. What are you doing right that you're a 4 and not a 3?
Mhm.
What could you do now to bring yourself from a 4 to a 4.5?
Mhm.
And they do that often in the beginning of their sessions and a lot. And it's just another example, because one thing that's great is for you all here to take from this. Dick is so uncontrolling. Maybe he actually lives in self, like that doesn't need to control. I don't know. Could be.
Most
But
of the
and and so if you guys use this in creative ways, one thing I'm doing now is, some of my people, let's face it, they don't have time for me. They're running a gigantic organization. So what I can do sometimes, I'll just text them. So how curious you're being today? What's your compassion like today? And just sort of once a week, send them kind of a self trigger. So that's one thing that I do.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And in addition to asking that question of what can you do to get higher on the scale, you might even say, can you find the part that's keeping you from getting higher on the scale? And see what it
Oh,
would need from you. See what it would need from you to loosen its grip a little bit and relax. And how can we help it trust that it's okay to let you get higher on the scale?
that's lovely. Just say that again. I think if we all could do that, that's lovely. Let's really hear you say that again.
Okay, I'll try to
You
remember.
don't have to repeat it word for word, hon.
Just that, I love the idea of the scale. So just notice where you are in these qualities right now.
Mm-hmm.
And in addition to what you just said, can you find the part that's keeping you lower on the scale?
Mm-hmm.
And see what it needs to trust you more. See what it needs from you to give you a little more space right now and let you get higher on that scale. And if it's really not up for that, then we need to get to know it and do some work with it, something like that.
That's beautiful. So one thing we didn't get to do today is to have you take everyone through this exercise where you get to know a protector. So everyone, listen to the webinar that's on our homepage with Dick. In it, about 25 minutes in or so, he does an exercise, and I strongly suggest that you do that. Maybe, Dick, we could have you come back even just for 15 minutes sometime to do that exercise and to sort of capture it.
Yeah, happy to do that, Carol. I love the collaboration with IOC, so anytime.
So wonderful. I see that we're at 30 minutes. So thank you, Dick, so much. Thank you all for being here with us. If you're not a member, please join us. And just thank you. So Dick, we'll really take your wisdom with us. Thank you.
Very welcome. Always great to see you.